Alright guys, we are back again, this week with the Tol'Dagor 18 that I chested this week on Grievous and Sanguine. I'm going to be trying to give you guys a little bit of insight as to how to play, kind of what we are doing, the strategies we use, what I should be looking for as a Moonkin on Infested, that kind of thing. So first off, we are going to be pulling a couple packs here, none of the Infested packs at the very beginning of Tol'Dagor, and we're going to be doing a decent sized pull here. So you see me starting, I'm starting up with a decent amount of stacks of Archive of Titans in max AP. And then additionally, you see me kind of losing my astral power here while our tank is grouping mobs. This is kind of common, not super upsetting. I'm going to be about half AP, a little bit less is what it's looking like right here whenever I pause it. So about 30 AP, but it's pretty much free astral power, plus additionally I have free Archive of Titan stacks at the very beginning of the dungeon, just by hitting a turnip or keeping yourself in combat with a different mob or whatever else. And then right here you see me blow my cooldowns, pop Trents instantly, and then I'm just trying to do as much damage as I possibly can at this point. It's me, a Demon Hunter, and then a Assassination Rogue, and basically we're just trying to do as much damage as possible and kind of blow up this pack quickly. Additionally, we're going to be moving these mobs out into the water on the left side of the map right here in order to not be able to like sanguine the mobs and heal them up to full. So you can kind of see our tank positioning around and kind of just kiting all these mobs around while I'm sitting here DPSing. And then you see me use Bull Rush right there to stun them all. Bull Rush is a pretty neat ability. While it does DR with other things, Bull Rush is pretty good for stunning Infested, and just in general, it's a pretty decent utility. Do keep in mind, though, like how it affects your positioning right before you even use Bull Rush. And then, so like I said, our tank kind of moves the mobs out into the water as to not sanguine them, because sanguine drops at the very bottom of the ocean, and the mobs have to be like on top of sanguine to be healed by the debuff. So basically, walking them out into the water like this is very important. Not using Trents too, very important here, because Trents will drag the mobs down to the bottom of the water, healing them in the sanguine, which is a really big deal. And so now you're going to see us here come pull these parasites. You see me, I ended the pack with 66 astral power as I'm able to do a decent amount of damage on these parasites. Additionally, I'm running 2 Archive of Titans and 1 Organic Pulsar here. So I do have a decent amount of AoE while having still a pretty large amount of single target for later on in the instance. And so then you see us kill that parasite that was infested. I instantly knock to make sure everything's out of sanguine. I double Star Surge one of the Gahoonies, and then we just kind of CC chain with Chaos Nova, like sweep everything else, and just try to kill those Gahoonies as quickly as possible. Now we're just slowly DPSing down these parasites, and then we're just going to make our way to the Sand Queen. Alright, so now we engage combat with the Sand Queen here. And there's nothing too real significant about the Sand Queen. We're stacking up into melee as to spawn all the sand traps kind of close to one another, so the Rogue and the Demon Hunter don't have like downtime issues and are able to really pump the boss while additionally getting free cleave on the Sand Queen itself. Additionally, this also helps us because Fury of Elune is an AoE, and it's pretty, it does a decent amount of damage, so making sure that everything is stacked up is pretty good for Fury of Elune. Now you see us kind of spread. And here I kind of make a mistake. I'm sitting here trying to hit my drums, but for some reason they're not going off. Yeah, you can see it right here. I'm sitting here trying to hit drums, but they're not working. And then eventually our rogue does end up using drums for us. So I'm sitting here trying to open up my bag, but then our rogue eventually hits drums, so it's not really that big of a deal. Alright. And so right here, I use Trents on the buzzing drones in order to get them off of our tank and for him to stop casting on him and stop mailing him and stuff. And you're going to see me make a mistake right here. I pop Incarn right here, which is not correct. I should have waited for the Sand Queen to come and do his upheaval again. But I did make a mistake, and I did use Incarn there. I should have delayed it a little bit. It's just wasting up time. Even though I do only end up wasting probably about 5 seconds-ish. Maybe a little bit less. Maybe like 3 or 4 seconds. I do end up wasting some time with Incarnation, which is very important overall. So making sure that you're timing Incarn properly is pretty important as a whole, especially for balanced Druid. And so now you see us just really just pummeling into the boss, trying to not let it do a significant amount of damage to us. I accidentally walk into that sand trap. Not exactly what I was going for there, but I mean, sometimes it happens. And then additionally, we're going to get another upheaval here. I'm going to get targeted with the upheaval. So basically, you can dodge the upheaval if you're quick enough on your wild charge. Generally speaking, you want to be doing human form wild charge. But I see the upheaval go on me. I instantly swapped to bear form as to not take too much damage. Then I wild charged the drone to try to get out of the air quick enough, but I do accidentally hit a sand trap. That could have killed me, so that was actually a really big mistake. But at the end of the day, I didn't die, so it's really okay. Mitigating the upheaval with Bear Form or Bark Skin or both is generally speaking very good for Balanced Druid. Yeah, just making sure that's mitigated, taking less damage, and then throwing out some off healing with Swift Mends or whatever else occasionally is very important, especially on Grievous. All right. And so then we're about to navigate our way through the sewers and make our way up into the walls of the jail. So you see the Gahoons come out. I'm sitting there at a decent amount of AP. I pop a Star Surge into one of the Gahoons. I knock the other one back in order to make sure that we're able to kill it, but it does get Fell Eruption by the Demon Hunter, which is a single target stun, so Fell Eruption is really strong overall, especially for infested mobs, as Kidney Shot, Fell Eruption, Chaos Nova, and Leg Sweep. 2 single target stuns and 2 AoE stuns are very important, especially for making sure that you're not allowing mobs to get infested overall. And so here you're going to see us death skip this Thug, I think is what it is. Yeah, it's a Thug. So you're going to see us death skip the Thug. So our tank pulls the Thug, runs into the Crocs, and dies. We're going to mass res him right here. Just to save us time overall. Because we don't need percent, because they recently changed Tol'Dagor to where the cannons up top scale with key level. So basically the cannons actually do a significant amount of damage, so basically pulling all those mobs up top is pretty good, so we don't need a bunch of the stuff down below to make sure that we have to shroud skip all the cannons and all the other crap up top. So now you're going to see us banish and sap these mobs and make our way through the through part of this level. Basically we're not really going to pull too terribly many mobs on this level, and what they're doing right here is they're setting up so the rogue is able to sap and blind one of these mobs, I believe, and then they're going to then the rogue and the tank are both going to get in combat with all this stuff and try to very quickly open up all the jail cells as possible. So basically if you have a rogue or somebody with blacksmithing and keys in your group, you're able to open up these jail cells, and they do give buffs. Some of the buffs are similar to Arcane Intellect, where you get spell power, there's like a battle shout one, there's a fort one, there's a bunch of different buffs that you get from these people inside these cages, which rogue or blacksmith with keys can open. I think inscription can also open it too. So basically we don't need any of these mobs, but we do want some of the buffs. So the tank and the rogue are going to like kill themselves basically to try to open up as many of these cages as they can quickly as possible, right? So we're just sitting here, me the healer and the demon hunter sitting here waiting for the tank and the rogue to die and open up as many cages as possible, and then our healer is going to mass resurrect the whole entire group. So you do see at the top of the screen, we do get Battle Shout, we do get Fortification, we do get AI, Arcane Intellect or whatever. I don't remember what the rest of the buffs are. There's a couple more buffs, I think, that are available from these mobs, but I don't remember exactly what they are. Alright, and you see a sap, and now we're using Shroud in order to run past these mobs that really we don't need, but they do take a significant amount of time. And so we're pulling these arsonists into these yellow mobs, and we're just going to be DPSing these down. Overall, I hope these videos are a little bit more informative in nature and are helping people in order to be able to perform well inside of Mythic Plus dungeons. I do have planned to make some similar style raid videos in terms of like me analyzing bosses and explaining their mechanics and explaining how you should be typically playing them as a Moonkin. Especially, this will be pretty important whenever progression comes out, so I'll be looking to be doing those. Additionally, with the next affix of reaping, maybe after progression, probably whenever I have a little bit more time, I'll probably be getting back more into these Mythic Plus analysis videos, so stay tuned for those. And if you're really liking the content, make sure to like and subscribe, guys. I really appreciate it. Alright, so basically we're pulling the Sea Speaker by itself, as it does cast this big shield on the group. Solar Beam is really good for this mob, and additionally this mob is infested, so we really don't want to be doing it with a bunch of other mobs. Alright. So Sanguine and Infested actually kind of work pretty poorly together overall. The Gahoonies spawn, generally, if they're getting healed by Sanguine, you can kind of kill them through 1 or 2 pools of Sanguine because the Gahoons do have very little health, and you can kind of pop them quickly. However, if they're in a bunch of stacks of Sanguine, sometimes Gahoonies are really hard to kill overall, especially if your melee don't have a lot of uptime on them. As a ranged DPS, I don't really have too many issues hitting Gahoons with a lot of uptime, but Balance doesn't have a ton real stopping power to kill Gahoons, because we don't have single target stuns unless we're running Mighty Bash, which is a mistake in a Mythic Plus dungeon. So being mindful about where the infested spawn in relationship to the Sanguine is also very important. So using Typhoon or Ursul's Vortex or whatever else in order to displace mobs is a pretty big deal. Additionally, Engineering Belt, very, very good. The engineering profession has a belt enchant that you can enchant to have a knockback. There's also one for a shield, which is very good for progression rating. However, the knockback is very, very, very good for Mythic Plus. But as a Moonkin, you don't necessarily need it too terribly much, but it is still very good. It's very good for other classes, not really balanced. Alright, and again, you see these Gahoons spawning inside of Sanguine, and then I'm sitting here trying to cast into them and kill them as quickly as possible, as infesting a bunch of mobs here is definitely going to slow you down overall inside of a dungeon. And we get a big, fat use of Force of Nature here. The Trent's really helping the tank mitigate a lot of damage here. And you see the Scallywags, as they are humanoids, they're running away. So I think it's humanoids. They flee whenever they get below, it's like 20% health. So those mobs are running away as fast as possible, and you're sitting there trying to kill them as quickly as you can. This fleeing mechanic sometimes can be okay. Sometimes it can be annoying, especially on Sanguine, is if they if they accidentally run into Sanguine and just kind of stand there for a second, then you're going to kind of lose a lot of damage overall. And then additionally, you accidentally see Rushing Jade Wind pull this Raider through the wall. It's not really a big deal, but it's just something that just does slow you down overall inside of a Mythic Plus dungeon. And you see me getting a big value Fury Balloon here. I also get Arcanic Pulsar right there. I proc an Arcanic Pulsar there, which is really, really strong, especially on that many targets. I get an Arcanic Pulsar proc, I get a nice Fury Balloon, and we're really rolling here. And so then I'm going to wait for a couple of these mobs to die, and then I'm going to pop my Force of Nature in order to mitigate tank damage. But I don't want to be Force of Naturing mobs inside of Sanguine, as that would waste a lot of time for us and make the group not very thrilled. Okay, so I do make a mistake here. I end up holding my Incarn for a really, really long time when I pretty much could have gotten a free use. So I do want it for Jess Howler, and we are bloodlusting the second half of the hallway, right? And whenever he does his little howling thing. So I do want Incarn for there, right? But it's up right now, and we have about 2 minutes left on Lust. So I should be popping Incarn basically on these yellow mobs, or just kind of getting this free use of Incarn, right? Because it will eventually be up, and it will be up for Bloodlust, and it will be up even if I use it, even if I did use it right there, right? But I did waste it, so. But it ended up not costing us too terribly much damage, and it doesn't cost us too terribly much time, but it is just one of those things that you gotta think about optimizing sometimes whenever you're looking at timers for like Bloodlust or your Incarn, or where you're positioned in the dungeon, or how long do you think these mobs are going to take. I thought that they were going to be a little bit shorter overall, so I was looking to hold Incarn. However, that was clearly a mistake in retrospect. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20, but this is just one of those things that you guys got to be looking out for. Alrighty, so I start dotting up the mobs. I unfortunately am not able to pop Incarn here, as that would waste a decent amount of damage overall. You do see me Solar Beam that Sea Speaker's cast, as it would have given the whole entire group a big shield, which is purgeable, but it is waste time, especially if damage is being cast in the shield. You see me pop Arcanic Pulsar there with my Fury Balloon and Force of Nature up, allowing Balanced Druids in general to do a lot of damage here. You see the Sea Speaker going down pretty low, and he's going to be healing that Sea Speaker in the back as the Sea Speaker is fleeing, and then our Rogue Kidney shots the Sea Speaker in Sanguine, which is not super good, and I try to run up and Typhoon as quickly as possible. However, that Sea Speaker is going to run back up again and then just stand in the Sanguine, and then our Resto Druid, I think, is going to Typhoon it out of the Sanguine? Yeah, okay. So our Resto Druid Typhoons it out of the Sanguine. That other mob runs away, which is kind of frustrating. Something to think about Sanguine here is Jess Howler runs down the hallway, opens up all the cages. You cannot be killing mobs in front of the cages, as Jess will like pretty much heal to full if you're not super careful. So making sure that it is okay if he heals a little bit, but having him stand in front of the cage and be like opening up the cages and then just heal to full 100% health is really, really bad. So that's something to think about. Sanguine does only take a minute to despawn, so just kind of keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about it all. So just something for you to just kind of be wary of overall. And so now you see me pop my Fury Balloon. I'm looking to dispel that that poison debuff, as Balanced Druid does have Remove Corruption, which removes curses and poisons. Pretty good ability. and then we line of sight these flashing daggers. And so then we're back on this mob. And then one of our melee casts Howling Fear. Again, the poison comes out, I instantly dispel it, and then we are gaming right here. So just Howler pushes at 70%, and then we end up running down the hallway, and we have to kill him on the other side of this little, I don't know what this is, this little part of the cage. We have to kill him on the other side of this cage. So you see me running down the hallway, dotting it up, making sure that I have 100% astral power, wild charge through the Sanguine as to not take too much damage from it. Taking a lot of unnecessary damage from Sanguine is not really that big of a deal, but it is something that should be avoided at all costs, really, especially when it is able to be avoided. Additionally, so we got everything dotted up, we pop Incarn, we pop Bloodlust, and we're really DPSing down Jess Howler right here. Additionally, was it Bobby Howlis, I think is his name? Okay, yeah, Bobby Howlis will stun and incapacitate a target with this Vicious Mauling right here. It is very important that you interrupt that very quickly. You see me interrupt it with Solar Beam. It looks like it's a protected cast, protected by a shield. However, it is not. I thought it was. It is not. That is wrong. So you can interrupt it instantly. So that's why I Solar Beam it there before even DPSing the shield from Bobby Howler. Or, yeah, Bobby Howling? Whatever his name is. Bobby something. Bobby and Jess. Alright, and so we got the Howling Fear here. Somebody interrupts that Crippling Shiv. I go to dispel it. Our Restorer Druid gets it a little bit quicker than me, but it is still very important that I am looking for it. Especially for comps that don't have a poison dispel. So about half the healers don't have a poison dispel. So if you are a Moonkin, you should be looking to dispel those poison effects. I'm pretty sure Paladin doesn't. Paladin, Shaman, and Priest I think don't. I don't know about Monk. Alright, and then you see somebody get Vicious Mauled there, and our Rogue doesn't kick it because he thinks that the Bobby Howler thing is a protected cast, which it does look like. It really does look like it, but I'm pretty sure it's a bug, and it is not in fact a protected cast. So you see Bobby Howler running away, and we are going to wait a second to drop combat. The reason for that here is... Oh, why did we drop combat again? There was a specific reason that we waited to drop combat, but I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it might have been Rogue Stealth. So Rogues get a Vanish Stealth, which increases their damage by a pretty significant margin if you wait a second and let them drop combat. I don't know if that's necessarily worth, because that does waste time, but it does increase their damage overall. That might have been the reason, but I think there might have been some other reason. Oh, during this VOD, our tank actually tells me that I should have held Trents here. Apparently, in this next pack, if you do Trents them before it even attacks your tank, the mobs kind of bug out and then they don't do anything. And they'll just kind of stand there not meleeing your tank. If you open up with Trents, like Trents is like your first global before the tank even pulls the mobs or anything else. So apparently Trents are very important on this pack, so I should have held them, but I did not know at the time. Alright, so you see me get high on Astral Power, pop Fury of Loon. I'm sitting here popping single target damage into this Bilge Rat Looter in order to kill the infested mob as quickly as possible. You see somebody kicking that Irontide Thug. This is Debilitating Shout. Debilitating Shout decreases your damage done by I think 50%. It's a pretty bad debuff, and you should be able to be looking for kicking that as pretty much as soon as you can. You see me Bull Rush those Gahoons. We didn't have an AoE stun up. I think Chaos Nova and Lake Sweep both down, so I do Bull Rush through to try to stun them, to try to disrupt them as long as we can. And then I additionally am popping Star Surges and Astral Power into them in order to be able to just kind of kill them as quickly as possible. And then you see me getting frustrated because I can't hit that Irontide Thug, which is like trapped behind the wall. So I pop my Arcanic Pulse or Incarn proc, and then I just like stand there like waving my hands in the air trying to cast Lunar Strike, but I can't cast anything because they're lining me because he's behind like this much of the wall. Alright. Then I Wild Growth this all because I think we're all going to walk through Sanguine, but we end up not. But Wild Growth is still pretty good ability, especially on Grievous. Balanced Druid on Grievous is very, very good, especially with under-geared or underperforming healers, as you are able to off-heal a pretty significant amount. You'll see that in the last fight. I do off-heal a pretty significant amount. So you see our Rogue standing on this X marker right here, and this is kind of important because he's not going to get in combat with these Flamecasters right here, and then we are able to Shroud and get to the cannon as quickly as possible. We're going to kind of pull some of these mobs on this upper level to us in order to utilize the damage of the cannon that was recently buffed. So Balanced Druid is really good with helping set up the group of the cannon. You don't want to be inside the cannon, but you want to be setting up your group. Entangling Root, Typhoon, and Force of Nature are all very, very strong in order to be able to set up your group with the cannon. So you're able to like knock mobs back. Oh, Solar Beam is also pretty good as it does an AoE silence. So I should have been line of sighting here, honestly, but not here, but for the next pull that we do, I should have been line of sighting right here. But I was just not thinking about it. I think I die over it too. I'm sitting here trying to be greedy for damage for no real reason where I should be line of sighting. And then our healer dies and I go to battle res him instead of getting in line, and then I get shot again and I just die. Which is stupid of me. But it's not, there's no real backlash to that. Yeah, I just get blaze casted on me twice because I have threat on the mobs, but I should have just been line of sighting. But again, being able to set up kind of slow down the mobs with Typhoon, Force of Nature, and Entangling Root is actually pretty important, as it does help your person inside the cannon really fire down the sight and really kill mobs quicker. So you see me running to get out of line of sight here. And I'm going to peek in line of sight, drop Trents on all those mobs, try to keep them in place, and let our cannoner really fire down the barrel right here. Additionally, you're going to see me walk across the ledge here and knock these guys back in order to try to get as efficient cleave as possible. And then you see our Resto Druid drop in Ursul's Vortex, very important there. Ursul's is really, really good. Alright, and you can see that one mob standing in Sanguine. Our tank is currently pulling right now, which is not going to really be that big of a deal, but this Mariner is going to heal the full, I think. The Marine, not a Mariner. He's a Marine. This Marine is going to heal the full because he's in just a jillion stacks of Sanguine, which does end up wasting some time, but it really could be worse. Sanguine down this dungeon is pretty hard sometimes, especially with that. Because we used our Ring of Peace, we used both of our Typhoons, we used our Ursul's Vortex, we used all of our displacement abilities. Maybe somebody had an Engineering Belt or something. You see our tank or our healer getting kind of rolled there, and I instantly Swift Mend him in order to try to help heal him up a little bit. Alright, you see me drop Force of Nature right there in order to keep the mobs kind of stationary, while our rogue inside the cannon is kind of aiming down the line and just firing the barrel. Like fish in a barrel. Alright, you see the Flamecaster coming, we get a pair on it. I think I'm gonna... Okay, never mind. That Sanguine despawned. I was gonna probably knock it back. Oh, no, I was casting Entangling Root. So I was gonna Entangling Root it outside of the Sanguine, but the Sanguine ends up despawning, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Okay, so now we're moving down to these mobs. If you do have an infested mob here, like this Marine is right here, you should be killing the Marine very last, if at all possible. So you see me root it right here. We don't end up killing it last, but it doesn't end up mattering at the end because we kind of kill them evenly. But the Marine should be killed dead last, especially since it is infested. The cannon doesn't kill infested mobs, and it is really hard to be able to... It's really hard to be able to get good damage, especially whenever one person is in the cannon. You don't want to be getting shot by the cannon, so you're kind of apprehensive in general. And then the cannon doesn't hit the Cahoon, so you really should be kind of careful in order to how to kill the infested mob. Make sure to kind of kill the infested mob last, while using CC like Para, Entangling Root, or whatever else. So you saw me, so he accidentally clipped the Marine with the cannon, which is fine, so I went to reroute it, but he shot it again, and he was like very dead set on shooting it because he kind of didn't understand, but at the same time you should be killing the infested mob last. Additionally, they changed these barrels in order to be able to be moved while, or you're able to use mobility abilities like Wild Charge or Bull Rush or whatever else while moving the barrels. So as Balanced Druid, I normally like to pop Encarn, do my damage, and then start moving barrels with Wild Charge or whatever else, because Balanced Druid is pretty decent to move barrels overall. More than Rogue and Demon Hunter. They might not be the best, but they're better than Rogue and Demon Hunter, so it's not really that big of a deal for me. Because I do okay damage while moving barrels, where the moving the barrels does make it way less risky for us to take like a lot of damage, right? That makes sense. So you see the barrels come out, I pick up one. Oh, I try to pick up one. I'm struggling to pick that one up. I don't know what it is. I guess you have to be like in the hitbox, and then I drop the barrel in the fire, run across the room. Just to make sure I'm not taking damage. Then I pop my Arcanic Pulsar here. and we're just kind of going in. Going in for a couple seconds. You see our monk is picking up the barrel, kind of moving everything to just try to make it a little bit more, make them a little bit more condensed, I guess would be the word for it. Try to make the explosions not hit us, because the explosions hitting us, especially on like an 18, even though it's not tyrannical, it could kill us. I don't know exactly how much damage it does, but it could kill us for sure. So you see me pick up the barrel, I wild charge across the room, drop it on top of that other barrel, in order to make sure that the barrels are a little bit more condensed. And then additionally, you see me grab this other barrel, and I'm just moving it across the room. I drop it, and I'm moving again. So I do damage through dots. Me moving the barrels is not really that big of a deal because I'm not losing as much damage as like a demon hunter or a rogue otherwise would. Alright. So yeah, that's just something you should be thinking about. If there's another person in your group, I don't know what would be better than Moonkin for moving them. Maybe like a Beast Mastery Hunter probably would be better. Yeah, Beast Mastery Hunter would probably be a little bit better than Moonkin for moving them. Healers are always really good choices to move them if they're not healing. This is Grievous, so the healer has to heal a decent amount. Alright, and you see us get this Warden and these two Priestesses, and then our Rogue gets in the cannon. I drop Force of Nature to tank everything, and then I Solar Beam one of the Priestesses. We should get a Purge on that, but we'd end up not. It's not really that big of a deal because the cannon's getting 3-target cleave here, and it's just going to fucking wreck everything anyways. And then we got the last two mobs in the instance, and then we are done on count. So something to think about on this last boss, Overseer Korgus, is as Balanced Druid, you have a pretty significant amount of off healing as a whole, in the form of Wild Growth, Swift Mend. You can regrowth if you want to, especially during Grievous weeks. It kind of depends on the group, depends on the level, depends on kind of a lot of different factors. But you see me coming into this pull with 8 stacks of Pulsar, 100 Astral Power, and Incarn up with Ready for Lust. So I'm really prepared for this pull overall. Alright, I pop my Incarn, I pop the drums, and then I pop all my damage into this boss. So we're on an Australian realm, so I kind of mess up my rotation a little bit. I'm sitting here trying to like cast abilities, but instead I like double surge and stuff on accident there. That's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to double surge there, but I think my ping kind of spiked by being on an Australian realm, or my ping spiked from something, and I ended up accidentally casting a double surge there, dumping when I did not want to, just wasting potential damage. And you see me get Ironbark there. I cast a Wild Growth, I Swift Mend myself, and I'm just trying to mitigate as much damage as possible through healing. Additionally, trying to get myself out of Grievous, trying to get us all out of Grievous. And you see our Demon Hunter accidentally DC. There's a current bug with Demon Hunter where it's like something about a double jump and I-beam is what I've understand from playing Demon Hunter. Basically, if you double jump the same frame as you I-beam, it like instantly DCs you. So we're waiting for him to come back. Well, not really waiting. We're pumping the boss, but it's not really that big of a deal. Additionally, Innervate is pretty important on this fight, especially as a Balanced Druid. You should be holding it, waiting for whenever your healer calls for it, but it is still a very, very powerful cooldown. So our Demon Hunter is back. We res the Demon Hunter. Making sure that you're mitigating this explosion, this cast through Barkskin right here like I do, is pretty big, especially if you're running a bunch of Ursoc's Endurance traits, or just generally speaking, mitigating damage through Barkskin is very important. I cast Wild Growth here to try to make sure that everybody's topped, especially since our healer's getting slightly ish. I give him Innervate. And then basically we're on the back half of this boss. I hit myself with a fat Swift Mend to make sure that our healer's, again, not wasting too much mana trying to heal up a bunch of stacks of Grievous here. I do end up standing in this corner because it allows me to get knocked back by the Deadeye shot or the normal explosion, and it allows me to really just not get moved, so I have like really no chance of getting stunned by the boss. Alright, you see me Swift Mend our healer. Because me dying is way less important than him dying, because if he dies, that's like a really big deal. If I die, it's like whatever. And I pop my Arcanic Pulsar. I really don't want to move for that knockback, but if I get knocked back across the room, there's a potential chance that I get stunned. You see me get Swift Mended here. I cast a Wild Growth into us in order to make sure that we're not losing too much health. I cast a Regrowth into a Rogue to try to top him out of Grievous, to kind of help our healer. Even though our healer is at 20% mana, Resto Druid does waste a pretty significant amount of mana while trying to top people through Grievous. And so that is the dungeon itself. So basically, I hope that kind of helped. As a balanced Druid on Grievous, you should kind of be looking to off-heal a decent amount, especially whenever you're able to help your group as much as possible. This healer right here did not need too terribly much help on an 18. However, it is definitely a case-by-case basis, and if you're looking to pug a little bit more, kind of be looking to off-heal a little bit more. Overall, I think the choice of 2 Archives and 1 Pulsar was pretty good, especially with how we were approaching the dungeon as a whole. Doing a lot of damage through the cannon, so balanced Druid single target was a little bit more pertinent. You do see me beat this Demon Hunter in overall damage, which is pretty good for balanced Druid, especially in Tol'Dagor, especially since we didn't do it. Part of it's because we didn't do too terribly big of a pull at the very beginning, so it allowed me to not actually just get rolled overall, so that's pretty good. Balanced Druid single target is pretty strong, especially whenever you're running Pulsar, so kind of keep in mind, should you be running Pulsar with, depending on like kind of how you're pulling. So us utilizing the cannon here, Pulsar is a lot better than, generally speaking, how Tol'Dagor should be played out otherwise normally. But overall, I really hope that helped. Check out my Patreon, check out my Discord, check out my YouTube, check out my Twitch, check out all that stuff in the description. I really appreciate it. I hope it really helped everybody just kind of get a more firm grasp on how they should be approaching dungeons. Stay tuned for updates. I got other stuff coming out within the next week or two related to Battle for Dazar'alor. So, I hope it helps. Later, guys. Later.